All right. So Shawn Riley is North Dakota's Chief Information Officer. And we're going to talk a little bit about blockchain because he wants the state of North Dakota to get into the blockchain game. Shawn Riley, thanks for joining us on What's on Your Mind. How are you doing today?
Hey, Scott, I'm doing really good. How about yourself?
Doing good. Thanks for chatting with us today on the program. Nice to have you back on. Let's start with the ABCs. What the heck is blockchain?
All right. So I'll try to use a bunch of analogies for folks, right? So I want you to think of blockchain in the terms of things you can see in the everyday world. So let's picture the internet, right? The internet in today's world looks more like your roads, right? All these different roads everywhere, lets you go everywhere. All the vehicles that sit on those roads, you got semis, you got minivans, pickup trucks, cars, all that stuff. That's everything from your email going across, that's your pictures going across. So, just think of it as the big road system and all those vehicles. So blockchain is like a piece of concrete. It by itself, it's just a rock. It's not that cool, but what can you make out of it, right? You can make bridges, you can make buildings, you can make cities. And the reality is what blockchain is it holds data, but it has some really special characteristics about how it does that. It holds information. It keeps it immutable, which means it can't be changed. So we can write information and make it permanently written. And it's got incredibly high security to it. It also has something called provenance. And if people haven't heard that, but it allows us to know the order in which things happen in perpetuity. So in this case, let's say you buy a car. So Scott, you buy a car. You sell that car to me. I sell that car to my daughter. We can use this technology to track that transition in perpetuity from 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, still have that transaction record. So really simply, it's just a way of holding data, but it's got a lot of special characteristics that make it really advantageous for the state.
It's very interesting. And by the way, the best explanation I've ever heard about the blockchain and what it is, because I have to tell you, I hear it and my eyes just roll into the back of my head because it's just too hard to understand all the different moving pieces. And I feel the same way about cryptocurrency and all this. I'm like, what in the world? But great explanation. So when you say you want North Dakota to get in on blockchain, what would that mean? Knowing how you just explained this, what would this mean that we don't already do here?
Yeah. So let's think about all the different places that you interact with government, right? So licensing, right? Fishing licenses, hunting licenses, licenses for businesses, where it comes to your driver's license, all those kind of things. You also think of records of transactions. So if you're buying a property, you're selling a property, maybe you have mineral rights, all of those different things where government transacts those, ensures that there's those records, knows those records are there so that we can show in perpetuity that you own that asset, right? So that that property is yours. And so that when something happens with that property, we can ensure that it can be handed down to your children, or that you can legally sell it, or that you can legally buy it. All of those transactions are places where a blockchain could be super helpful for us. So right now, we have literally hundreds of different systems in the state of North Dakota that hold data. Those systems, because there's so many of them, they cost a lot to operate, they cost a lot to manage, they cost a lot to secure. Cybersecurity is a huge deal, and we've talked about that here before. The reality is blockchain can help us simplify that a lot. And think of it as if you're using 15 different kind of materials to build a building, well, what if you can take that down to 2 or 3, right? It makes better economy of scale, it makes it easier for people to work with, and it makes it a whole lot easier to build with.
So what would it take? Think about this question. We'll talk about it on the other side of the break. You've given some very practical examples of how this infrastructure, this cement, can be utilized in a practical sense. Some examples of that. That to me seems like, as you've described it, sort of a no-brainer. It's just getting North Dakota in a place that would say, hey, we're gonna lean in on this technology, and it's gonna make things better for citizens on all of this list of things. I'm curious, is there a cost to that? Is there a sort of just a changing your mindset on this? What would it take to do what you're describing? We'll talk about that when we come back. Shawn Riley is North Dakota's Chief Information Officer. More with him when we come back, and your questions welcome too, right here. Continuing our chat with the Chief Information Officer for the state of North Dakota, Shawn Riley, who's recently made some news by saying that states should focus on tangible, public-facing projects to demonstrate the utility of technologies like blockchain, smart contracts, NFTs in government. Which, just in having you tell me some practical examples, Shawn, of how this would be used, seems as though that's a no-brainer. Is there a cost to this? Is there a heavy lift to this? What do we have to do to say, yeah, North Dakota's all in?
Yeah, so from a technical standpoint, it feels like a no-brainer, but there is a lot of complexity around this, and the reality is, so the state of North Dakota's IT world is actually substantially bigger than people think it is. We think of North Dakota as a small state, a family state, and we are. But from the point of view of technology, the IT organization here in the state actively defends and takes in part of their day-to-day work of 252,000 people every single day. Right, that's legislative branch, judicial branch, executive branch, K-12, higher ed, cities and counties. And so basically a third of the state is somehow impacted by our IT organization every single day. And when you're talking about that many people with literally thousands of systems and hundreds of thousands of endpoints of computers that they have, there's a lot of things that we have to get through. So the first thing really comes down to the strategy, right? And the technology is one thing, but the other side of this is something where I would look to you and I look to your listeners and I say, how many of you like standing in line, right? How many of you want to have take time off to go do business with the government, right? How many people want to have to go to a location and spend maybe an hour or a couple hours driving to go get the materials that they need because they're doing some business with government? We need to change that idea so that it's very citizen focused. I want you as a citizen to be able to get any material, anywhere, anytime, any system. So whether you're going to do it on your PC or you're going to do it on your MacBook or you're going to want to do it on your cell phone, we want you to have accessibility to that information. That's where blockchain is going to give us a huge, huge uplift, but that is a lot of transition. And yes, there's definitely cost to it. And the legislature's been really good to us and with a lot of dollars that they put into IT over these last few years. But this is added cost, but it really does change how the citizen can interact with government so you can have a better experience and you can get to what you need to do a whole lot faster and then get on with your life, right? That's part of what we want to do. We want to make that much, much easier and much, much faster for you, the citizen.
You said 1/3 of everything that happens in the North Dakota day-to-day world is touched by what? Give me that stat again.
About a third of North Dakotans are somehow connected to the North Dakota IT department every single day.
Wow.
So whether it's K-12, so all the K-12 schools across the entire state run on the backbone that is supplied through NDIT, through our IT organization. The same with all the university systems. The same with every county organization. The same with all the city organizations. So there's just a huge backbone. And when you think of this is one of those places where people think of North Dakota as small. Well, we serve 252,000 people every single day. That makes us about the same size as Starbucks, which is a Fortune 30 company. So in this case, North Dakota is not small.
Very fascinating. Don't have a lot of time left, but this makes a lot of sense to me. I think we all need to just learn a little bit more about what you're talking about here. And as I mentioned, you explained blockchain really well. You mentioned NFTs, non-fungible transactions. What does that mean in 30 seconds or less? Just to give me the fifth grade explanation of an NFT.
Sure. An NFT, non-fungible token. Take a dollar bill out of your pocket. Look at the dollar bill. When you look at it, you say, hey, that's a dollar bill. It's worth $1, which is true, right? But there's also a serial number on that dollar. You'll see that in the little lower left-hand corner, right? An NFT says, hey, this is a dollar bill, but it's a unique dollar bill because it can look at the serial number too. And it says, this is a unique item. And that's really all an NFT does, is because you can do that in the digital world, and it makes certain products around images and different artwork and all kinds of different things that we can say, this is a singular piece that can't be replicated.
You know, I think the most important part of this discussion is explaining it in a term that is very understandable. And I think I feel the same way about cryptocurrency. It's just like my head explodes when I try to get my arms around that. And I believe you have a brother that is in the cryptocurrency business. State Scoop reported that you were an advisor to your brother on this. Do you agree with that? Does your brother agree with that? I mean, just whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's the non-fungible tokens or the blockchain, the most important thing to realize the benefits that come from it is going to be explaining it, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I always have to work on is how not to get into a bunch of nerd talk. I can sit here and talk nerd and talk geek all day, and people look at me and their eyes glaze over and they have no idea what I'm saying. It really is difficult to have those conversations, but it's something that we can boil down. We can help people get there. You know, the analogies we're using today, it's a road, it's concrete, it's the serial number on your dollar bill. Those are things that people can touch and they can understand, and that really helps move the conversation forward.
Fascinating conversation. I learned a bunch and appreciate your expertise. I said earlier, Governor Burgum deserves credit for hires like Shawn Riley. Bill Panos is another I put in the top three. Some great folks doing some good work. So, Shawn, thanks for the time today.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.